resource in the United Kingdom. То есть онлайн.
Hello there, everyone.
Hello.
Can you just confirm you can see my screen only, please?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to present today. I'm Peta Knott, the Education Manager for the Nautical Archaeology Society. Over 50 years ago, the Nautical Archaeology Society was formed to train citizen scientist divers to actively support the work of professional archaeologists in the United Kingdom. This work has now expanded to dozens of countries and continues to this day through the internationally accredited education program. Today I will share with you just how core citizen science has been to the NAS and how these programs and projects have contributed to the sustainable management of underwater cultural heritage. But it's not always been smooth sailing, and I will explain some of the hits and misses in this community-led projects to provide inspiration or sage warnings for future collaborations of citizen scientists and professional archaeologists. So over the 50 years of the Nautical Archaeology Society's existence, we've run countless citizen science projects, and I'm just going to talk about a few of them that I've worked on more recently. We'll start with a core component of what we do, our education program. This is how we create citizen scientists. Since the need for more archaeologically trained divers for the Mary Rose excavation in the early 1980s, we've trained over 20,000 people in the UK and around the world. And in fact, I'm a product of this international program. I did my training in Australia in the early 2000s. Our non-academic, internationally recognised training program teaches practical archaeological skills and heritage awareness and promotes responsible public access to maritime heritage. And due to the lack of personnel, time and money in our discipline, there's always been the emphasis on upskilling our members to have sufficient skills to go out and continue the maritime heritage work on their own. So here's a quick overview of our current qualification system. Starting from the left, it begins with everyone obtaining standard information in practical and theoretical maritime archaeology with the foundation qualification. Then participants in the system can branch out on their own learning journey to complete courses, attend conferences, participate in fieldwork, do diving, monitor foreshore landscapes, write blogs, or research archives. There's great diversity in the learning opportunities to accommodate the diverse interests and geographical distribution for our members. We currently have 26 training partners, as you can see from the numerous blue dots on this map. These partners range from government departments to small non-government organisations, dive centres to universities. They teach a localised version of our syllabus. Whereas our English content uses the Mary Rose shipwreck, our southern partners in the Australasian Institute for Maritime Archaeology replaces these examples with their significant wrecks, such as the Batavia or Sydney Cove. While we teach about working in cold, dark waters with challenging tides, our Croatian partners, the International Centre for Underwater Archaeology, have sunburn as their health and safety concern. One of our oldest training partners is the Australasian Institute for Maritime Archaeology, which has been with us since the 1990s. But the syllabus and the content and even the teaching method has certainly been updated in that long time. And that's what we pride ourselves on, providing essential core archaeological learning which can be adapted to local environments and updated to current teaching methodologies. And I'm pleased to announce that a major upgrade in our international syllabus is about to be released in early 2025, which will ensure that all of our colleagues have the most up-to-date basis to work from. So let's explore one of the ways that citizen scientists have been supporting the management of underwater cultural heritage in the UK. The early 1970s was a great time for maritime archaeology in the UK. Not only was the NAS formed, but the first piece of legislation to protect wrecks was enacted, the Protection of Wrecks Act 1973. Originally, it was just a handful of protected wrecks, but over the years, more and more have been added and recommended for protection. We've now got 57 wrecks, as shown on this map, that are legally protected due to their historic significance. Now, to dive or investigate these wrecks, you must either be a registered licensee or be under their supervision. And that's only a matter of filling in a bit of paperwork to visit these sites, but some people find that a bit daunting and restrictive. So for the last couple of years, the last couple of decades actually, the NAS has been running protected wreck days on some of these wrecks. We take care of the paperwork, throw in a tour of the site with a waterproof guidebook, and everyone has a really lovely day. And they do have a lovely day because they keep coming back. Incorporated into these diving with a purpose experiences are wreck monitoring tasks. The archaeological information gathered during these dives are included in the annual reports to the government. These nice diving days out are a vital monitoring scheme for government management of protected wrecks and are crucial to the promotion of public access to our shared heritage. Now, for more in-depth monitoring, we turn to the team of protected wreck licensees, which we're a part of. A high percentage of current licensees are the divers who originally found these wrecks in the 1970s and 80s, and they're getting on a bit. Over the years, NAS has provided training and advice to these licensees. They were often just divers who were really passionate about a site but didn't really know what they were doing when it came to archaeology. Over the decades, through our training, their repeated diving, and pure determination, they have become experts on their wrecks and in specialist topics. Now, recognising the mortality of a whole generation of divers, we chose a new tack to help them. To ensure that their knowledge and experience was not lost forever, in 2019, we partnered with MSDS Marine and Heritage for a project to try and bring a new generation of citizen scientists to work with the old guard and to continue their archaeological investigations. Despite general agreement amongst everyone, including the licensees, that this strategy was necessary, the project had a number of setbacks beyond the anticipated bad UK weather and an unpredictable broken dive vessel. The project team had no idea the amount of historic baggage between the licensees that would be dredged up by this project. And of the dozen or so groups that are still active on wrecks, only 2 were suitable or willing for the project in the end. We predicted that a younger group of divers would be interested in this fully funded archaeological training and fieldwork project, but we were wrong. It seems younger people just don't have the lifestyle or attitude to commit to longer-term diving anymore. However, despite these challenges, a new group of citizen scientists was trained across 2 protected wreck sites. One licensee group has accepted the newcomers into the fold, and this relationship has continued through annual fieldwork on the protected wreck, and this feeds into an annual report to the government reporting on the state of the wreck. Now, moving on to a topical project, as part of our constant search for diving with a purpose opportunities for our members, and as a way to contribute to the under-resourced maritime heritage sector, an opportunity arose for us to do fieldwork on a protected military wreck. We just needed to prove to the Ministry of Defence that we could provide a suitably trained team of citizen scientist divers, and to also prove that this would be a successful demonstration of repeat projects that could gather useful data for them on their potentially polluting wrecks. So building on the excellent working relationship that we already had with the salvage and marine team in the Ministry of Defence, we designed an online course that citizen scientist divers could complete, and that would provide them with the knowledge and skills to safely dive at a protected military site. This course also assured the MOD that the divers weren't going to hurt themselves or accidentally blow up the wreck. The online course was extremely successful, with waiting lists and repeat versions of the course needed to satisfy demand. Over the 5 iterations of this course, we trained 130 people from a total of 12 countries, and here is the latest intake of people we trained on this course in September this year. Our courses were well attended and have received excellent feedback, but so far only one person has actually run a project that can provide data to the MOD, and that is Claire Hellebone, who is pictured to the right. From the course feedback, the majority of attendees came to the training motivated by wanting to dive military wrecks and understand them more. We expected divers to feel empowered to use this training to go off on their own, but if they are diving these wrecks, they aren't sharing their observations with the MOD or with us. Now, hoping for divers to report on their observations and contribute to the study of the historic environment was not a blind hope. It was based on the success of a similar project that took place in lockdown. A list of 400 Welsh wrecks was compiled, a report template created, and directions on research given. So far, this is similar to the MOD project, minus the diving, of course. The Welsh project resulted in over 300 reports, which are all available online. But I think that we can all agree that it was a different time during COVID and we were all slightly different people. While the MOD course taught divers the basic hazards to look out for, the research techniques to find their own site, and reporting methods to assist the MOD, it turns out that the divers might need just a bit more direction and hand-holding than predicted. To that end, we've just put in a bid for an expanded version of the Citizen Science project. Here are the 2 ideas that we're going to encompass. The first project is looking forward, with divers collecting new data on potentially polluting wrecks underwater. We'll select half a dozen known wrecks and create dive slates with key monitoring photo points and have them printed for dive clubs or available for download. There'll be an app or website created to report this data. It will only be on a small number of wrecks, as much to test the methodology and resources as it is to attract divers to visit familiar wrecks with a new task. Once the teething problems are ironed out, this can be rolled out across the UK and globally through our international training partners. The second project is looking back by crowdsourcing legacy wreck photos. This project will have inclusivity at its heart. Divers, retired divers or non-divers from around the world will be able to contribute from the warmth and comfort of wherever they have the internet. We'll crowdsource a database of legacy photos of potentially polluting wrecks, including a mechanism for armchair archaeologists to cross-reference photos of the same bit of wreck, taken at different times to show changes. This will have a great benefit of tracking the deterioration of our heritage and potential threat to our environment. Here's an example using a minesweeper that we regularly use for training. Now, expanding community-involved sustainable management practices of underwater cultural heritage beyond the underwater world encompasses an even broader spectrum of citizen scientists, and this is demonstrated by several NAS projects. The first of these projects I'm going to cover is a popular ongoing citizen science scheme. Hopefully many of you are familiar with the Big Anchor project. We have a great following on Facebook. It's a great way to attract a range of people into subliminally appreciating and recording maritime heritage just by sharing photos of anchors that they see in the maritime context or in popular culture. But the project actually had a more academic start with the funded development of a crowdsourced database to increase the understanding and research potentials of anchors. Initially, there was also funding to run a training program teaching people how to measure anchors in detail and then add this information to the database. The Big Anchor database is very much targeted at citizen scientists, as it allows people of all ages and abilities to contribute and allows different levels of information to be added depending on what you have available. Ideally, you'd have a lot of information, but if all you have is a photo, an overall dimension and a location, then you just add those details, and perhaps when comparing it to others in the database, you'll learn more about this anchor and be able to add more details. And that's what this project is all about, building on each other's knowledge to learn more about the anchors and also use them to date and contextualise other related maritime heritage. While this database has almost 2,000 entries, you can see that it's a little skewed towards the UK. I encourage you all to please help us change that by adding your own local anchors. This project is very much based on the goodwill and sharing of a love of maritime heritage. However, we forgot to share that love with the hackers, and several years ago our website got brought down for many months. But love prevails, and thanks to crowdfunding, the website was restored. Due to the survivability and prevalence of anchors in the environment, both above and below the water, this database has the potential to make a great contribution to our understanding of the historic environment, and citizen scientists are the people to make that contribution. The system is already set up with user-friendly database and guidance notes all online. However, only a few dedicated anchor apps are making contributions to the database, and it seems that a little funding for events and training are required to realise the full potential of this project. It must be acknowledged that while anchors are quite relatable in the general public, not everyone has a great passion for them, but there are other artefact types that can be useful in public outreach and crowdsourced research. Cannons. Following on from the Big Anchor project, a number of NAS members took it upon themselves to create the Big Cannon project. This has been entirely citizen science driven and they've received no funding to set up this crowdsourced database. However, you can see it is very successful with several thousand cannon being recorded around the world. This is an amazing resource for researchers of all levels to use, from fellow citizen science groups endeavouring to identify their wreck through the typology of the cannon, to government departments assessing the heritage of the cannon memorials outside their official buildings. We're going to finish with a unique project that developed a methodology we're hoping to repeat. We can all agree that COVID was a horrible time, but it did force us to be inventive to keep busy and sane. One of the many projects that came out of this time was the Invincible Illustration online project. We ran many versions of our very popular archaeological illustration course, and we're looking for some outlets for people to practice their new skills. NAS is privileged to be well connected to many of the movers and shakers in the maritime archaeology world. Dan Pascoe is one of these people. He's a maritime archaeologist and licensee of the HMS Invincible, a French warship that was wrecked off the south coast of the UK in 1758. He allowed us to take photos of a selection of the artefacts that he and his team had raised and conserved. These photos were then put on a shared online filing system. Once people had completed the required online illustration course, they could access these files and complete the illustrations in their own time. They then sent out their illustrations back to our expert illustrator, Mark Hoyle, who provided feedback to improve the images, as you can see in the middle image there. High quality illustrations were created, and you can see here in particular that the illustrations show a much greater detail in the photos. Through this project, we engaged with a team of 40 citizen scientist illustrators from around the UK and 9 other countries. These volunteers learned a new skill and put it into practice in a meaningful way by creating illustrations for publication on a protected rec. The limitations were that we only had a small number of artefacts to work with and had to rely on the goodwill of our expert illustrator to provide quality control on the images. But this is a methodology that we're planning on repeating for several maritime heritage collections in the future. Thank you for listening to some of the experience that the Nautical Archaeology Society has had with citizen science projects and programs contributing to the sustainable management of underwater cultural heritage. I hope that others can learn from our experience and be inspired for projects of their own. I welcome anyone to contact me who would like to discuss this further. Thank you.